36, and ask Trust Board Member Homer Scott to lead us in a word of prayer.
Father in heaven, we thank you for this day. We thank you for all the blessings you've given us for this beautiful day, the sun and the rain we had, past rain we had. And we pray that we, as the trust board members, that we may make right decisions on to benefit the tribe and our members. And we pray that we look at the future on what we do, what we can do, and what would be better for us. We ask you to be with the people that have visitors who come up here, and we thank you for their safe trip and our safe trip. We pray that we have a safe trip home. We ask you for all the blessings and all that we would want to do good, and we ask you to guide us and in each and every day to be the members of this tribe that we can. In Christ's name we pray, amen.
Amen.
Our secretary's absent this evening, so I'm going to call the roll. Vice Chair Mary Jo Peterson.
Present.
Secretary Roger Stewart is absent due to a health problem. Treasurer John Sumter here. Member Homer Scott.
Here.
Member Joe
Here.
Brooks here. Member Mary Waters. Mary told me that she was going to be here at lunch today, but perhaps she's had a problem. And let the record show that Chester Brooks is present.
I'll make the motion that Roger's absence be an excused absence because of his hand problems.
I second it.
Motion been made and seconded to excuse Roger's absence due to his health problem in his hands. All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Let the record show that Roger's absence is excused for health reasons by a vote of 5 yes, 0 no. Paul, I want to welcome you and our guests. I would like this board to amend our agenda to let our guests present their presentation first.
Motion to suspend the agenda.
I second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Paul, our agenda is suspended, and it would do us great pleasure for you to introduce these fine gentlemen to make their presentation.
Thank you, Chief. On the trust board, I have asked representatives from Charles Schwab and Capital Advisors to make a presentation. Tonight, they have provided some backup documentation for your trust board members to review, and I decided to let them introduce each one of themselves and what their position is. And we'll start with Charles Schwab, Mr. Jonathan Christensen.
Thank you, Paul. And my name is Jonathan Christensen. I'm a financial consultant with Charles Schwab Company. And I'd first like to thank Chief Brooks and the Honorable Trust Board for allowing us to come and present before you. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the firm that I work for, Charles Schwab. We were founded back in 1971. We serve over 7 million client brokerage accounts. We have over $2.5 trillion in client assets. And because we were founded in Silicon Valley, or out in the San Francisco area, we have been at the forefront of technology. We've been one of the leaders in our industry in technology, and we have a very strong investment platform. Our mission is, and we exist to help people achieve better financial outcomes for themselves and their families. And to do this, we've partnered with some of the best wealth managers around the country. And one of those partners is with me today. They are Capital Advisors. They are based in Tulsa. So when you have an account that's managed by Capital Advisors, the assets reside at Schwab. So you have the financial strength and the backing of Charles Schwab Company. The assets reside at our location and are managed by Capital Advisors. They are the wealth manager on the account. So you benefit from the robust platform that Schwab has, very user-friendly, very high-tech platform, but you get the advantage of professional management from Capital Advisors. So I'd like to introduce Capital to you and start by introducing Brad Priest.
Good evening. My name's Brad Priest. Thank you for allowing us to present to the Honorable Board. Thank you, Chief Brooks. I'd like to spend just a minute or two on Capital Advisors, who we are and how we work with Charles Schwab. And then I'm going to introduce the CEO of Capital Advisors, and he's going to go through the packet that we handed out. So I'm a portfolio manager at Capital Advisors. We were founded in 1978. We manage about $1.6 billion. We have, Capital Advisors has offices, our headquarters is up in Tulsa. We have regional offices in Oklahoma City, Dallas, Houston, and Birmingham, Alabama. And we partner with Schwab in the following way. So in 2002, Charles Schwab made a decision that they wanted to have an option for their clients for professional money management. We were one of the flagship members into the program that they created. So we've been partnering with Schwab since 2002. It allows Schwab clients to access the best of the best money managers. Like Jonathan said, your account is always resides at Charles Schwab. They are the custodians of the account. So you have access through Schwab. You never lose, Jonathan, you never lose the Schwab platform, the technology platform. We simply are just the money managers of that bucket of money. So that's kind of the way we work with Schwab. We're 100% employee-owned and operated. We're not part of a bank or a trust company or a insurance company. So we're 100% independent. And lastly, and it might not mean a whole lot, but we're GIPS compliant, which means Global Investment Performance Standards. It's very important in our industry to be GIPS compliant. In a nutshell, it's a set of standards that we have to abide by when we're reporting performance. So any numbers that are published, you can rest assured they are GIPS compliant. I'd like to introduce Keith Goddard. He's the CEO of Capital Advisors. He's going to go through the packet that we created. So with that, Peter.
Thank you, Brad. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you to the Honorable Board and Chief Brooks for including us here today. And I feel compelled to say thank you to the service of the Delaware tribe, as I had some time to look around the room at the record of military service. That's a remarkable display, very impressive. So you know a little bit about Capital Advisors. I'm going to spend some time on just just the investment strategy, how we do things. Trust me, I'm not gonna torture you through this whole thing. So let me just sort of speak in broad terms and maybe reference a couple pages and we'll leave it at that. But I'm happy to go into whatever level of detail that you would like about specifics in the book. But in terms of how we function as an investment manager, I'll leave you with a couple kind of major thoughts in terms of comparing what we're talking about doing, the way we do things maybe relative to how you're doing them right now. We've had a chance to sort of compare the portfolio that you have right now with our list, how we do things. There's some information in here about what a transition would look like, what would you keep, what would you not keep, and why, and all that sort of thing. So in broad terms, what would be different are a couple of things. The portfolio would have fewer positions in it. It would be simpler. I don't think it means it's less sophisticated or anything like that, but it would be simpler for anyone in your group overseeing it and keeping track of it to get your arms around what's going on. You would have 40 to 50 stocks in the portfolio, which is quite a reduction from what you have now. And in particular, you'd have a lot fewer bonds in there. And the bonds that you would own would be all straight bonds that just, there's a principal amount, there's an interest payment, whatever you invest in that bond, the same amount matures at the end. There's no return of principal or goofy stuff going on. We don't have any of that in the portfolio either. So by keeping it a little narrower in terms of number of securities that you have and more kind of in the fairway, so to speak, on the types of bonds that you own, it's easier for your group to keep track of what's going on. Another big difference is income production. Your portfolio right now yields about 2.7%, so that the cash flow it's generating as a percentage of the value of it is around 2.7. The portfolio that we designed for you in here is about 3.7. We're in a world where interest rates aren't very generous, so it's not none of these rates are very exciting. But an extra 1 percentage point is $38,000 a year in income. So we do focus more than what you're doing right now anyway on higher dividend yields, more concentrated dividend yields in terms of more of the securities paying dividends, and the bonds are bonds. The interest rates are pretty low there. But so higher income, fewer securities, and I don't know exactly how you're being communicated with now, but one of the things that we spend a lot of time on is direct communication with our clients to explain what we're doing and why. And I don't expect that your board would go through every single thing that we send you, but it's there if you want it. And what I mean by that is anytime we buy or sell a position in the portfolio, we will send out by email to anyone you want to be included in that list, here's what we bought, here's what we expect from it, here's why we did it, same thing on a sell. And you get that the same day that we did it. So when you see stocks change in the portfolio, your group always has a way to know why we did that. And we're humble enough to recognize that sometimes we will be right, sometimes we'll be wrong, but at least our clients always know why we did what we did. And that's important to us. So between those sorts of changes, simpler approach, higher income, hopefully greater transparency, although I can't speak to what you're seeing now, that's kind of the experience that we try to deliver. And then the last thing I would say is simply philosophically, we think about preservation of capital first. You're going to recognize most of the stocks in the portfolio, for example. There will be some maybe you don't recognize, but we're not swinging for the fences on crazy things that are either going to go up tenfold or go to zero. It's the concept of keeping it in the fairway. The financial markets can deliver what you need as long as we don't make silly mistakes by over-concentrating in one industry or swinging for the fences when it isn't necessary. Production of interest and dividends will do 90% of what you need, and if we get a little bit of appreciation on top of that, which we would design the portfolio to do, we feel pretty confident we can get you where we need to be. So I think I'll leave it there and maybe make ourselves available for any questions that you have.
Fees. Yes, I was gonna bring that up.
Can you hear me? 0.6%, 60 basis points.
And Keith, I think what you might tell the tribe is if capital advisors are selected, you might give them an overview of how the transition would occur.
Okay.
Not something immediate, but in consultation. So they can, you'll see exactly, because this is, as it is now, you've got a lot of small bits and pieces that are gonna have to be moved. Some of them have to keep. I mean, they're so close to maturity, there's no sense,
Right.
selling that. But why don't you give the council a good feel for on a proposed transition?
Okay. So we should have had numbers on these pages. It's about 6 pages into this book, but there's a page that looks like this. There we go. Is that working better?
Yes, thank you.
And it says implementation plan up at the top. And I'll speak to it as you're looking for it, but and if we're not on the same page, I can speak to it in a way that you'll get it. So in your bond portfolio, which is about $1,360,000 roughly right now in bonds, fixed income. There are a number of bonds in there that we would keep in the portfolio, so it's not like you have to liquidate the whole thing. And in terms of value, more than half of the value would be retained. But you have lots of small bits and pieces, and you have some bonds that are throwing off a little bit of a deceptive income stream because part of the money you're getting is a return of your principal versus just pure interest. And we would want to get those out of the portfolio and replace them with bonds that are only spitting off interest, so there's no confusion about what your earnings are that are sort of spendable. But there is a table there showing what would be retained, what we would add, and sort of where those fall out in terms of a maturity schedule on your bonds. But the main point is our goal is to keep it as friction-free as possible. We don't want to move bonds around just for the fun of it. So all the bonds that are in there that fit with the maturity schedule and the credit quality that we think is appropriate for what you want to do, we absolutely want to keep those. Same philosophy on the stocks. We list a number of stocks there that have overlap in our current portfolios. Clearly, we would keep those positions for you. The other positions that you already own, it's not like we would have to just flood out of those. There would be a transition period, but within a reasonable period of time, certainly less than 6 months, we would expect the stock portfolio to have transitioned to a smaller number of securities. And again, more of those are going to be dividend-paying stocks relative to what you're experiencing now. The mix that we're talking about having is 60% in the stock market, 40% in the bond market. Within your stock portion of the portfolio, there would be 2 strategies going on. The vast majority of it is something we call a managed equity dividend strategy, where the securities are selected for income production first, dividends first. That portfolio on a standalone basis yields 5.12% right now. Every stock in that portfolio pays a dividend of 3 to 6%, something like that, but it's an average of 5.12 right now. Then a smaller piece, 10% of the portfolio, would be invested for growth, and most of those stocks pay dividends as well. Some of them do not. And again, thinking about you need a certain amount of cash flow that you use every year, and we can get very close to achieving that just from interest and dividend payments, but you still need some growth to keep up with inflation and that sort of thing. So that 20% slice is really there to not be so focused on income so that there can be a growth component of the portfolio. And then the bonds will throw off about a 2.6% interest rate right now, and that is a function of where interest rates are in the world. They're very low. But what that part of the portfolio will do for you, which is 40%, is be there next time the market goes the wrong way in the stock market. Every 5 years or so, we're gonna have a period where it's really bad, and that part of the portfolio will be stable for you during those environments, and create the stability that you need. So that's sort of globally designed. We have brought with us sample portfolios of existing, a sample account with the name whited out, basically, of the same 3 strategies that we're talking about putting into the tribal portfolio. So we'll get those to you so you can see exactly what stocks you would own and exactly what bonds, that sort of thing. Let me rephrase that, not exactly what bonds. The bonds are going to be a function of what's available at the time we build the portfolio, but this is representative of the types of bonds that you would have. And the remainder of what's in this book, really the first 10 pages or so are going to be the most interesting to you. And that's where we go through a description of each of the investment strategies that we're talking about putting in the portfolio. Again, the managed equity dividend strategy of stocks, growth strategy of stocks, and the bonds. A description of the implementation plan, what the transition might look like, and a little bit about our firm. And then there is a very long report in there about our investment philosophy that if you read that, bravo to you. It's in there because you deserve to know as much about that as you care to. But we go into excruciating detail about how we think about financial markets, how that translates into the way we invest money. It's there for you. I would love it if you read it, but it's pretty detailed and it's there for you. And then a regulatory filing called the Form ADV. And that's where we file that with the Securities and Exchange Commission as a registered investment advisor, and that's where it goes through all the skinny about our firm, and you can see that we're not involved in any lawsuits or not been sued or don't have any client complaints or anything like that. That's where you get the bad stuff about a firm like us is in the Form ADV, and we're required to give it to you so that you can see whether we're up to no good or not. And I'm proud to say we have a clean ADV, and it's there for you. Any other questions?
Paul, where are we at on the 0.5 is what we're at now with Harvest, is that correct? Fees?
Yeah, point 0.5.
0.5,
That is correct. That is correct.
and y'all are 0.6,
Yeah,
correct?
that's right. Yeah, they're at a higher yield. They're at a higher yield because of a different strategy. Arvest, what they've done is they've taken your overall equity positions, both in your fixed income and your equities, and they've actually pooled it. They pooled it with other, I don't know if it's tribes or other, companies or other entities, and then based upon your dollar value, then they've been allocated that to your portfolio. So you're actually almost wrapped up inside of a larger global type of strategy, and so the fees are probably less because the dollars. You've got 4 million, they're probably managing 4 billion, and then they just allocate it. So anyway, and this is theirs is a concentrated strategy to actually raise your dividend and your interest yield. So you're talking about what, 10 basis points, but you're getting just on your equity side, you're getting over 5% as opposed to 2.7.
Are you currently managing any other tribes' investments?
No, we're not. You would be the first. We do work for a number of endowment foundation kind of clients where we're serving a board like this, so that's very normal for us, but nothing for a tribal organization.
So you're aware that we have to do several drawdowns per year to meet our needs?
Yeah. And that's very normal. We get that kind of assignment frequently. And we can, the nice thing about customizing a bond portfolio for you is we can help schedule those bond maturities or even schedule when the interest is paid inside of your bond portfolio to match up with the timing of your cash flows if they're predictable.
And that would also include your dividend stocks also.
In our trust document, we have 10% set aside for reinvestment. What would you recommend doing with that 10%? Go high risk, 10%?
Well, do I understand it right that it's 10% of the earnings each year
Yes.
stays in the pool, so to speak? So what we typically do is filter that back into the portfolio opportunistically wherever it makes sense. So if stocks have had an incredible year and all the stocks in your portfolio seem like they're ahead of themselves, we might filter that into the bond part of the portfolio. We might filter it into specific stocks that are presenting a particularly compelling opportunity. So instead of just blanket, we would never just blanket buy every position in the portfolio 10% more. We would pick and choose where the opportunity is at the time that you make that reinvestment. But it would filter back into the portfolio for the most part with more of a rifle approach than a shotgun. And I might say, where we are in terms of outlook, so you would kind of get a feel for what it might be like to be with capital advisors for the first year or two. We are not wildly optimistic about what financial markets are going to deliver over the next 3 to 5 years from this particular starting point. The stock market is priced very high relative to sort of its historical range, and interest rates are near historical lows. And so when you start the clock under those preconditions, then stocks are priced to deliver below average returns and bonds are priced to deliver really lousy returns. So the markets are not paying investors to take a lot of risk. When you're not getting paid to take risk, our attitude is don't take a lot of risk and wait to take your risk in the financial markets when you're actually getting compensated for it with upside potential. So to the extent that the stock market were to continue advancing by another 10 or 12%, say, over the next year, we would likely be pulling your stock market exposure gradually down into that strength and preparing the portfolio, not going into a bunker or anything like that, but becoming incrementally more careful if we got materially higher from here in the stock market in particular. Again, in the philosophy, not that we wouldn't continue to be long-term investors and buy great companies, but there reaches a point where you're just taking too much risk for the likely return you're going to get for it. And our goal would be build a cushion, get some growth for you, and then not lose it. That's kind of philosophically where we would be for the next year or two. If that helps.
Because I know we're charged, well, they said safe investments, which to me there is no investment that's really safe, but really low risk, because we've got a pile of what, 0.01, 0.02, investments to me, and I'm not that savvy, but it don't look like it makes sense to me. So basically, how would you pool that little problem?
You're referring to like the liquid investments that are earning almost nothing. That's the problem with what central banks all over the world have done to pin interest rates down at zero. You just can't get a fair return without taking a fair amount of risk. And now, when I say a fair amount of risk, the difference between buying a bond that's going to mature in 6 months and a bond that's going to mature in 5 years, neither one of those things is a horribly risky proposition, but the bond that's going to mature in 5 years might not be worth 100 cents on the dollar every minute that you own it, because if interest rates go up, the bond price could go down. You're going to get your 100 cents back at the end of the day, but it might wiggle between here and there. But anything that you need the money to be worth 100 cents on the dollar, no doubt about it, within the next 12 months, you just can't get much return on it. And if you try, you're taking risk. You're taking risk that it won't be worth 100 cents on the dollar when you need it. So, our challenge is to manage through that on your behalf as best we can. Know when you're going to need money. Keep just that amount ready for you, so the amount of the portfolio that is earning such a low return is as low as possible. but it's also enough to make sure that nothing that you're gonna need ever has to be sold at an inopportune time. So, you know, the risk, as we think about it, is we never want you to be in a situation where you have to sell something that you don't wanna sell because you need the money. Our job is to engineer the portfolio so that the cash flows are always there. And then the part of the portfolio that can be longer term, looking out 2, 3, 5 years at a time, that's where you're gonna have to take some risk in order to get the 5, 7, 9, 10 returns.
All right, thank you, sir.
Do you think we'd earn more income if we went more like 70% stocks and 30% bonds?
You would, you can.
Or is that too risky?
Well, it's, the challenge with that is you're starting now to get a portfolio that's gonna move a lot more next time there's a bear market in the stock market. And adding, when you're getting 2.6-ish on your bonds, and you know the dividend strategy, for example, is 5.12, you are getting a lot more income, but when you move just 10% of that, and you know the 2 percentage points of yield on just the 10%, it's not a, you're not picking up enough income probably to justify the extra downside from having that much in the stock market.
So that your recommendation is 60-40.
It's 60-40 because of the market outlook. Next time there's a terrible stock market environment, and there's lots of great companies available that yield 4 and 5% because they've all been beaten up, that's when we should have the conversation about making this 70-30. But because of where we are right now, it's just, it's not the right time to do that.
How long ago did we change our strategy? About a year and a half?
Well,
It used to
I know
be
it's over.
60-40, just the opposite. We had 60% bonds and only 40% equities. But we changed that, what, a year and a half ago? Approximately a year and a half ago.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, we're not opposed to, you know, we're not one of those firms that says, you know, like if you were just an individual person, the old rule that if you're 80 years old, you should have 80% of your money in the bond market. We don't think about it that way. We look at what is the opportunity in the stock market versus the bond market, and that should drive the way you allocate that money. Not how old you are or you know what the tradition is at the tribe or what have you. It should be driven by what the opportunity is and what risk you have to take. And right now, a balanced portfolio can deliver a reasonable rate of return that is below average because of low interest rates and because of where PE ratios are in the stock market. But it's okay, not great. If we get some upside in the stock market, you know, early on in our relationship with you or any of our clients, we're going to want to book that and get even more careful because the risk reward will just keep getting worse and worse and worse the higher the stock market goes, and we'll wait. And when there's a fat pitch, then we'll have the conversation. Let's go 70-30. You know, the opportunities are great in the stock market and it's time. But that's the way we think about it. And we'll be communicating with you about that. When we have a chance to be in front of you, we'll be talking about it, but again, about the transparency. We'll send communications out to all of our clients that think about these kind of things out loud. We're approaching that point in the stock market where it probably makes sense to dial back. If you'd like to talk about that, let's get together and talk about it. You know, we wouldn't necessarily just violate your investment policy without talking to you first, but we'd sure let you know when we think it's time.
Just be a time right now to dial back.
Not yet, not at 60-40. That doesn't mean the stock market isn't going to start going down tomorrow and make me look silly, but you know, at 60-40, you're probably about right for the odds that something may go wrong sooner than later. One nice thing about dividend-paying stocks, when you're in that 4 to 5% yield range, the stock market historically has only done 10% annualized. If you go back over the last 100 years, actually it's more like 9.5. You're halfway there just from the dividend. When you start with a stock that yields 4 or 5%. So one way we can take less risk right now without getting out of the stock market is to focus on those kinds of opportunities where you're trying to get the majority of your return just from the cash flow and we're not asking the stock to double and triple. There are other times where the market climate is more favorable to tilt towards growth, and we might have a conversation like that. Hey, you know, these dividend stocks are not going to be as exciting as the growth part of the portfolio. Let's go a little bit over there. But we wouldn't do that until you sort of built up some cushion and you had lots of room for the 3.8 million. I understand you can't go below the 3.8 million, so we need to build some cushion first, right?
And we got awful close here about 2 to 3 months ago.
Yeah, probably in February.
We were real close. Too close.
We were looking at shutting our programs down, and that's our main concern. You know, our travel programs that we take care of our people with. To me, I mean, I'll say the name Harvest is, to me, has gotten complacent with us. We really don't get a report like you said to be able to push with it, and we don't see them until we have to call them. You know, to come before and whatnot.
We get a monthly statement.
Yeah,
That's it.
That's it. You know, and me myself, I'll pay more for quality services. I'm not above that because you get what you pay for. You know, but still, yeah, we've got to be careful. Yeah.
Well, we're not magic, you know, if the stock market has a bad year, we're gonna have a bad year too. But we will communicate with you probably more than you care to hear from us. You will know why we do what we do, and you have the right to agree with it or disagree with it, but you will know why.
You're good inconvenience.
Maribel, you got any?
No, I think I would like to read and study this before I would ask a question. Otherwise, I don't know what to ask until I read it.
Well, that's why we just kind of talk about it here. So any follow-up, our cards are here, and we'd love to hear from you, and we really do appreciate the chance to meet you and learn about your organization, and we'll see where we go. We appreciate the opportunity.
I'm glad you're interested in this.
Really.
We thank you. We thank you all for coming. It's a very impressive presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, thank you very much. And travel, bond council. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. May I approach again? I've got some handouts here. I have a neat contact. Cards from each one of the individuals, okay?
Be like Japanese, use space and put them where you protect you about that.
We have, by the way, we have one more presentation from Prosperity. And they'll Doug, Brad, okay. You got three, everybody, two. And you have, okay, got them all. And for the others, in case they want to, we'll leave the speakers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did everybody receive the minutes?
but I cannot open the financials, just the cover page.
Oh,
And somebody else on the trust board said they had the same problem, with black pages. Was it you?
I did it the last time, they come through this time.
Yeah,
Mine did, mine black pages again.
Huh. Well, I know I had that problem the first time, but this time they came through, so.
On the sheet I get that comes through all right as a cover sheet. There's gotta be something, maybe I'm doing wrong on my computer or
Update.
don't know. But I always get them, Dana always prints them off for me.
Well, they use a PDF right on the printer, I think, don't you? Dana?
No, we've got it, we send out a PDF file from the computer.
I'm not computer savvy enough to know. I've even had that, it's been a long time, but I've had that happen to me too, that the financials were just blank, or out on a black page. But for probably the last year.
I printed them off one time, I go in there and got 22 or 23
Oh,
pages,
God.
black.
Black.
I thought, what the heck? You know, I go off and leave my printer running and go and watch TV.
Uh-huh,
And I went back and I thought, what the heck?
and goes all your ink.
Yeah.
That ain't cheap.
Well,
That's
do-
why it's easier to come out and pick them up.
Do I hear any additions or corrections to the minutes of our April 13th meeting?
Motion to approve the minutes with corrections.
I'll second that.
Motion been made and approved, or seconded, to approve the April 13th minutes. Does anybody need more time to go through them?
I read them online, I'm ready to, I'm all right.
If there's no corrections or additions, all in favor of approval of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Treasury report, Don.
As of 3/31/16, the last balance we had on that for that month, $4,092,668.88. As of 4/30, the balance being $4,095,758.85. At least we gained, it was only $3,089.97, but at least we come up.
And actually, you could look at it that the investments gained 6,800, because the total here takes into account that we spent about 4,000 cash. So if you only look at our best asset management.
Yeah, 6,863.22. Thank you.
Motion to approve the financials.
I think the motion,
I made the motion.
oh, you mean, well, I'll
Yeah.
second it.
Yeah, okay.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the financials pending audit. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Let the record show that the financials are approved pending audit unanimously. Joe Brooks Community Services.
I think passed out the board, but I'll read it. Community services, we approved one burial for $500. We approved one elder prescription for $68.38. Emergency assistance, we approved one for $200. Medical, we approved one for $200. Rental, we approved one for $200. And student optical, we approved one for $200, for a total of $1,368.38. $1,638.38.
I have noticed on the community services as of the end of April, which is 1/3 of the year, we had spent $6,404.50, which is just a little bit over. If you project that out to the year, we've only spent about half as much money as we could have in that 4 months. So maybe,
If you remember, this trust board has already approved it, putting that on the ballot to reverse the percentages on between education and community services, to lower community services percentages and increase education. Because community services, we also had carryover at the end of last year. But education, we went broke, as you know, in about August. So that's something that's gonna need to be put on the ballot to change that. If everybody still agrees, and I most definitely think we ought to reverse that too.
well, yeah, since our trust document, which was approved, what, three or more years ago,
Yeah.
it specifies the percentage of each, so I guess we'd have to send
We'd have
that
to go
out
out
to
to
a
a vote
vote,
of people.
send an amendment out in effect.
Yeah. That's the amendment, just change the percentages.
Was the amendment that we suggested simply reversing their percentages?
Yes. And the trust board voted on that, to put that on the ballot.
I remember that discussion.
Yeah.
I think it was unanimous vote with this trust board. I don't think anybody opposed it. So if we let the people know that it was a unanimous vote of this trust board, I think the people would definitely go along with it.
Culture preservation, Homer Scott.
Okay, I wasn't here for the meeting, I was out of town, so I had, a couple people had told me what was going on as far as, our, culture, having, culture, meetings and sessions on Tuesday nights, at potluck dinner on Tuesday night, the second Tuesday of every month, I think it's it. And, so they started it last week on having that, starting our drumming and our culture songs on Tuesday and our potluck dinner. There was they said they had a total, I think, of 11 people show up or something like that. But the applications went out on the web and stuff, and on Facebook about people to fill out that would like to see what we could do with it to help them in culture, like our language, our dances, our songs, our shirt making, moccasin, stuff like that. So we see how many people are interested in that. And I had seen that they're having basket weaving here, I think once or twice a week, I don't know for sure now, just, right after lunch. I know yesterday they had one yesterday. So I think, we're gradually progressing and bringing our culture back up. Cause we do need this, and, we also had a, election of, vice chairs, and we had, one of them was not Bonnie, but, Anita, Mathis was, first vice chair, and, I think it was, Annette Ketchum was the second vice chair, and I've never heard of having a second vice chair until, but they voted in as a second vice chair, so I want to look into that and see where our statutes are about that, or how we do.
That's according to the rules of the.
Yes. And so, which, I think just in case two people are gone, chair, vice chair gone, that might work out. But we'll have more, create that, maybe that I have to get more people involved as far as our chair, vice chair, and so on. But we're gonna, have our Delaware gathering Thursday, night before the powwow, begins. And that's, and we're having our potluck dinner for that. And, we're going to have, veterans are going to, that's when they're going to draw for the rifle that, we've been, selling so we can, pay for our guns and things like that. So in the winter, well, I'll get to put that on that, as far as the veteran part later on. But anyway, everything else, is all right, and, on our next meeting, I'll give a better report. I'll have everything written down on our past meeting and the meeting we're going to have next month. And that's all I have.
So is there language class coming up this Monday evening?
See.
Yes,
Yeah,
I think yes.
It's the second and the third, second and fourth.
I want to start going to them again whenever I can.
I think,
It's every other week.
Yeah, it's every other week, yeah.
they started having them at 5:30.
Yeah, 5:30 so they was having it down below.
Oh, it's down there?
Yeah.
Down in social services building.
Okay. I'm gonna try and get there.
Education, Joe Burrows.
Education. We approved one athletic assistance for $50. We approved one driver's ed for $75. Education, we approved two for a total of $89.50. And we did one scholarship that was late, and the reason it was late is because the transcript, the college sent the wrong transcript, so we went ahead and allowed it and told her, we told her at the previous meeting that we would approve it pending a different transcript. It was a part-time for $150. So total on education and scholarships was $364.50. And by looking at our budget for the year and what we've spent, I'm going to make the recommendation at the next meeting that we increase the scholarships back to $400. Because at $300, we're not getting near as many applications. They said, well, if we're only gonna get $300, we're not gonna mess with it. But we're not getting near as many applications.
No.
Are you making that in the form of a motion?
No, because it's gotta be done by the committee
That
first.
committee, yeah, committee's choice.
That'd be the committee. But I am gonna take it to the committee at the next meeting. Because we kind of lax on participation, people wanting scholarship money.
Since Mary's not here, I think Homer and
Yeah.
me were both at the elders committee meeting.
Yeah, they had the elders meeting, the first, Monday of the month, and I wasn't here for that either. But, they had voted on, going to another casino, for the elders activity, and that'll be at Buffalo Run, and that'll be tomorrow. And
Oh, man, I gotta go to the
whoever wants to go, they got a sign-up sheet. They'll have a sign-up sheet up on the table at noon.
But the trip's gonna be tomorrow.
Yeah, the trip's gonna be tomorrow.
I got a good little lady, that ain't fair.
I gotta work.
Gotta go to Tulsa.
But, that was, all that was told to me as far as the elders committee, what was going on there, so I'd have to give it another report on that for our next meeting too. And so I apologize for that.
They're probably not gonna invite me to go anymore. I'm on
Oh,
one in
yeah.
the last trip on the city. One in it the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Read the message.
No report, no news.
And say the same for tribal operations. Roger's gone, so one of you veterans.
John was you at the meeting?
Yeah.
I wasn't at that meeting.
We was just talking, that was the, meeting prior to our, auction and, chili supper, which really turned out well, even though for a small crowd. I don't have the exact money amount we made, but we did all
A
right.
little over $1,000.
We did good,
I don't remember exactly, but I know it was over 1,000.
but I have more comprehensive report after tonight.
And let's see, we also have, we're having another auction at the powwow on a Saturday. And I think we're gonna have, what, 10 or 11?
11,
11 o'clock, and
and,
it's been verified.
and Luann did say that,
Yeah, it's been verified.
Lane's already okay.
Yep, okay, I talked to them today.
We're gonna have it at my camp again.
Yep.
okay.
We'll get somebody to announce.
Dana, veterans are gonna have their auction on Saturday at Powwow, so we can pick up that thingamajiggy,
11.
doo-wop or whatever you wanna call it.
Okay.
At 11,
Get it out of
11
your way.
a.m. at the Works Chair.
I need, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Be between Kenny's camp and my camp.
And we'll still need more items.
Yeah, she has that exercise sheet. Both legs, that's
Yeah.
what it is.
In regard to the auction, the last auction, not the one coming up, Kenny had told me that the Culture Preservation Committee agreed to donate 200 to that auction. So I pulled it out of my pocket and put the 200 in for their, for those sacks that all put money
Oh, the
in.
money's there.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did,
That went over good.
That was fun. Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if the Culture Preservation Committee ever volunteered that or not. I know that they hadn't paid it. Am I making a mistake? The committee did,
I think the cultural committee did it. right.
did that?
That's the meeting, but thanks for the donation anyway, Chief.
Yeah.
All the veterans appreciate that.
Yeah. I'll bum the committee. In the committee meeting. Unfinished business. New business. I've got an item of new business. Mr. Paul Bradford, as we all know, has made several trips up here with 4 groups now. And he told me months ago that he would do it for just mileage. He just handed me a bill for $821.34.
Where's he live at?
Well, he lives in Tulsa, but he's got 9-day trips. And I will admit, he has come up here at least twice a month. So in the last 4 months, it probably would have been 9 trips. But he also charged us for going to visit with these Bank First, Capital Assets, Charles Schwab, Prosperity Bank and Trust in Texas, which,
All the way to Texas?
yeah. I don't know where it just says Texas. At any rate, we've got a bill for services
For how much?
for $821.34.
How do you recommend that be paid? By the percentages that each committee gets?
I think it would probably be the fair way to do it.
I would think.
Yeah.
Has Jean had a chance to take a look at it?
No, I just got it today.
I'd like Jean to have a chance to take a look and, calculate, make sure it doesn't have any miscalculations.
How many, does he have the miles on there?
Yeah,
What he figured at 56?
well, he's got 9 trips from Tulsa. It shows 819 miles at 54 cents.
The mileage rates.
And
Mileage rate's 56, isn't it, Gene?
Do what?
Is the federal mileage rate 56?
54.
Oh, it went down 2 cents?
54.
Okay.
And then, well, these in February through May, he's listing Bank First, which I think is in Oklahoma City, Capital Assets, which were the guys that were just here,
Tulsa.
and Charles Schwab, Prosperity Bank in Texas. Now, I don't know, maybe Prosperity Bank is the one that's coming next month.
They are.
Yeah.
And I did know that he went to see him. All of those together totaled up to 702 miles. We probably better let Gene look at this, I think.
It'd be a good idea.
She don't wanna look at it. She doesn't wanna look at it.
She doesn't want to look at it.
No.
Well, were all these trips authorized ahead of time? Tell them, yes, go ahead and go.
Well, I did tell him that we give you mileage.
Well, we did
But-
try to find
but-
some investors, I remember that.
Yeah, we did.
We sure did, so basically,
Then it was authorized.
it's authorized.
Okay. I just want to make sure it's calculated right.
Yeah.
Does it look like it's calculated right to you?
Oh, well, here, I've got two copies of it. I was handing them around, and one direction, the other. It looks like it's probably calculated.
He didn't charge any time, brother. This is all mileage.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the only thing that's charged.
It's all mileage.
He said he wouldn't charge us any time, he charged us mileage.
Now, I'm gonna make the motion that we pay this invoice with out of each committee's
And
percentages.
he's brought us some good people.
Yeah.
I mean, I bet, especially Bass Merchant and Charles Schwab guys.
I'm making a motion that we pay the invoice to be split according to each committee's percentage that they receive each year.
Do I hear a second? Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm not opposed, but I'm going to abstain.
The reason I made that motion was to let each committee vote on it, because a committee couldn't approve that amount anyhow. They can't approve anything for $500. Takes a vote of the whole trust. And it's for each committee to benefit to talk to these ministers.
Do I hear further new business?
Well, I have a question on that. Is that the end in the travel?
Well, I know that there's only one more group coming.
He's already
Yeah.
gone down to see it. So
And
that
I
should
think
be the
it's
one
that
going to go.
group that was in Texas, if I'm correct, so. Wouldn't think we're gonna get charged for going to Texas again.
He'll have to come to Barnesville one more time
Yeah.
next month.
Yeah.
But that's,
Yeah.
Do I hear additional new business?
Move to set the date and time next meeting.
can we move that to, instead of 15, to the following? To the 22nd, Wednesday, the 22nd at 5 o'clock? Because I'm gonna be out of town the week from the 6th to the 10th and then the 13th to the 17th.
I don't have any problem with it.
It's all right with me.
And 5 o'clock would be all right.
So the it's 22nd is the fourth Wednesday of the month, Mary Jo?
Yes, that's right,
Fourth Wednesday?
yeah, at 5 o'clock.
You making that motion?
I make a motion that our next trust board meeting be Wednesday, June 22nd at 5 p.m.
I'll second that motion. At 5, not 5:30.
You help me out on the date, I'll help you out on the time.
All right. I'll also make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
So Mary's all right,
Me too.
Yeah.
especially since you're planning.
Mine is Gilbert, because he has to do all the driving too.
Oh.
Yeah. No, we didn't.